My fiancée went live and bragged. She slept with her ex. He's so clueless, she sneered, not knowing I was watching. I commented, good to know, wedding's off. Her face went from cocky to cooked. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Alright Reddit. This went down about 6 months ago. My fiancé's friend started a live stream during their girls' night. Stacy, being the genius she is, started flexing about how she was tricking me. I dropped a comment, she freaked, and 40 minutes later she showed up with her mom yelling. What followed? Complete shit show. Grab your popcorn, boys. I, 34 male, was engaged to Stacy, 27 female. We'd been together for 3 years after meeting through a mutual friend at a bike rally in downtown Austin. I own a motorcycle repair shop that I built from scratch over the last decade. We specialize in classic American bikes and high-end custom builds. I clear about $140,000 a year. My business has a solid reputation. We've got a 6-month waiting list for custom builds and a steady stream of repair work from collectors who won't trust their vintage Harleys or Indians to anyone else. Grew up with a wrench in my hand. Dad ran his own auto shop until he retired, and Mom managed the books. They taught me 2 things: how to build something that lasts, and how not to get screwed financially. Dad always said, in business and relationships, know exactly what you're signing up for. Stacy's dad, Robert, is a retired Marine colonel who started a security consulting firm after leaving the Corps. Stand-up guy who always treated me with respect. He appreciated my work ethic and business sense, often showing up at the shop just to talk bikes and business strategy. Jensen's got his head on straight, I once overheard him tell his wife. Her mom, Karen, on the other hand, classic country club trophy wife who leveraged her looks into marrying money. Never worked a day in her life and made sure everyone knew their family was Westlake Hills material. She tolerated me at best, constantly dropping hints about how Stacy's ex-boyfriend Brad was now making real money. Every time I came to dinner, she'd ask me about my little shop, like I was running a lemonade stand. Stacy herself was different from women I typically dated. Social media obsessed, always chasing trends. She worked part-time at some boutique downtown, $38,000 a year, but spent more time dreaming about becoming an influencer than actually working. She'd spend hours setting up the perfect Instagram shot of her coffee, then complain she couldn't afford the down payment on a Range Rover. Her family had money, not Texas oil rich, but comfortable enough that she never learned the value of a dollar. My previous relationships were with women who had their own careers and ambitions. With Stacy, I always felt like I was the responsible adult, but she was beautiful, fun, and when she focused her attention on you, it felt like being in the spotlight. I mistook that rush for something deeper. Looking back, there were signs. Like when my shop won a local business award last year, and instead of coming to the ceremony, she bailed last minute for some influencer event. It's just bikes, Jensen. This could be my big break. She didn't even text to ask how it went, or how she'd scroll through Instagram whenever I talked about a new custom build I was excited about, occasionally looking up to say, that's nice, before asking if we could eat somewhere more Instagrammable than my favorite BBQ joint. She once suggested I rebrand my shop with a more aesthetic color scheme because black and chrome is so dated. I nearly choked on my drink. Then there was the weekend I spent rebuilding a classic 69 Triumph. 60+ hours of work, sourcing rare parts from collectors across 3 states, solving mechanical problems that would have made most people quit. When I finished, I asked her to come see it. She walked into the garage, glanced at it for maybe 3 seconds, and said, honestly, they all look the same. I don't know why you waste so much time on this. I brushed it off, but excuse me? Waste? The same? That comment stuck with me. Or when we were house hunting, and I showed her a property with a perfect 3-car garage and workshop. She immediately asked if we could convert it to a content creation studio, because that's where the real money is. When I pointed out that my hobby paid our bills, she rolled her eyes and said, for now, but once I hit 100K followers, we'll be on a different level. She was stuck at 3,892 followers for the entire time we dated. The proposal was 10 months ago. Cost me nearly $4,000 plus another $9,000 for the custom ring. I spent weeks planning it, coordinating with the restaurant, making sure everything was perfect. She said yes, cried, and posted about it within 30 seconds. Wedding set for September, venue booked, deposits paid, 175 guests confirmed. By this point, I'd sunk about $22,000 into deposits and prepayments. Stacy had contributed exactly $0. My job is to look beautiful, she'd joke whenever I brought up the costs. I'd been putting in extra hours at the shop to cover it all, taking on high-margin custom jobs and expanding our service department. The business was actually growing because of it, so I didn't mind too much, but the cash reserves I'd built up were definitely taking a hit. Last Friday night was Stacy's girls' night. I was at home working on blueprints for a custom Indian chief build, half watching the Spurs game when I noticed her friend Taylor had gone live on Instagram. The stream was titled Bride Tribe Confessions. Taylor's always been the type who runs her mouth without engaging her brain. She's been Stacy's best friend since UT days. And honestly, I've always found her about as authentic as a $3 Rolex. I clicked on it, expecting some harmless wedding planning bullshit. There was Stacy front and center with Taylor and 3 other friends, Jess, Zoe, and my cousin's wife Amy, who I thought was my friend first. Then, Taylor looked at Stacy with this smug expression. So real talk? How's he really holding up with all this? Is he still doing that annoying thing where he tracks every penny of the wedding budget? Stacy actually snorted. Oh my god, Jensen is such a dumbass. He thinks this whole wedding is just about ticking boxes, budgets, and timelines. He has absolutely no clue about the real stuff. Like how you're gonna redecorate that man cave of his the minute you get back from the honeymoon? Taylor cackled. Please, Stacy waved her hand dismissively. That garage workshop is the first thing to go. I've already got a contractor lined up to convert it into a proper filming studio and walk-in closet. Jensen can rent space somewhere else if he wants to play with his bikes. I felt my stomach drop. That workshop was my sanctuary, built with my own hands, wired exactly how I needed it, with specialized equipment and storage systems I designed myself. Zoe chimed in with her perfectly practiced, concerned expression. I just worry that you're settling, Mel. You always talked about marrying someone more ambitious, more on your level socially. Honestly, sometimes I think he's more in love with his stupid bikes than me. Stacy slurred slightly. But whatever. He's easy to manage, and he's got a good income, so that'll fund the house I want in Westlake Hills, and the trips to Europe I've been planning once I've trained him properly. Jess leaned forward with a predatory grin. That's exactly why I told you to lock it down. My aunt married a plumber. Total bore. But he's loaded now with 3 locations. You just smile, nod at their boring shop talk, and enjoy the financial security. He's completely whipped, girl. You've got that man wrapped around your little finger, Taylor said. Remember when he wanted to use some of the wedding budget for that motorcycle charity thing? And you just had to mention how the bridesmaids would be disappointed with cheaper dresses, and he folded immediately? That charity was for veterans with PTSD who use motorcycle restoration as therapy. I'd wanted to donate $2,000 and volunteer my time. I'd given in because Stacy made it seem so important to her that the bridesmaids have the perfect dresses. Now I was hearing it was all manipulation. Pretty much, Stacy preened. He's so boring and predictable, so safe, he'd never suspect anything. Thinks I'm just his perfect princess. Speaking of not suspecting anything, Taylor prompted with a sly grin. Stacy giggled, leaning in like she was about to share a state secret. Jensen is so freaking clueless. I met up with Brad 2 weeks ago when Jensen was at that parts expo in Dallas. The girls gasped dramatically. Except Amy, who suddenly found her wine glass fascinating. You did not sleep with Brad, Zoe squealed. Stacy's face said it all. Maybe? And maybe it wasn't the first time since Jensen and I got together. Holy shit, girl! Taylor high-fived her. And Jensen has no idea? None. He's too busy to notice anything. Brad's been texting me the whole time I've been with Jensen. It's not serious or anything, but the sex is way better. And Brad actually knows how to have fun. Amy, noticeably uncomfortable, tried changing the subject. The venue is really beautiful, though. Jensen seemed excited about the... What a complete idiot, Stacy interrupted, and they all roared with laughter. All except Amy. I didn't feel anger. Just clarity. Like someone finally turned the lights on in a dark room I'd been stumbling around in for 3 years. Every red flag I'd ignored. Every compromise I'd made. Every time I'd silenced that voice in my head saying something wasn't right. It all made perfect sense now. I was never her partner. I typed in the live chat under my actual account name. Good to know what you really think. The comments were flying by, but Taylor saw it first. Her eyes widened. Stacy, she muttered, pointing to the screen. Stacy leaned in, squinting. Her smile froze, then pure panic took over. Her face went white. I typed again. Stacy, since you're sharing with everyone how much of a dumbass I am, let's be clear. The wedding is off. Engagement over. Find someone else's income to fund your Westlake Hills dreams. Brad can pay for it. She fumbled with her phone, trying to end the live stream. Taylor, stop it, end the stream! The last thing I saw before it cut off was her face. Pure horror. Staring at her friends who looked equally stunned. Amy looked directly at the camera and mouthed, "I'm sorry," before the screen went black. My phone immediately lit up. Stacy and Taylor both calling and texting. I put my phone on airplane mode. I took the ring and locked it in my safe. I sat down and made a list of everything I needed to handle. Legal protection, financial separation, securing property, notifying vendors, and dealing with housing. I've always been methodical, and this was no different. No point getting emotional when there's work to be done. 40 minutes later, my doorbell rang. Stacy stood there with mascara running down her face, looking like a raccoon caught in headlights. Her mom, Karen, was right behind her, looking like she was ready to demand a manager. "Jensen, please," Stacy's voice cracked. "It was a joke, just stupid girl talk. We were all just being silly. It didn't mean anything." Karen stepped forward, adjusting her blouse. "Young man, you have humiliated my daughter over some meaningless female bonding. You can't just call off a wedding over something so trivial. Do you have any idea what people will say?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Was it a joke when you called me a dumbass? Was it a joke when you said I was easy to manage? That my only value was funding your lifestyle? Was sleeping with Brad a joke too? No, I mean, yes, I said those things. But it was Taylor egging me on and the wine and, you know I love you. And I didn't sleep with Brad. I was just making stuff up to sound cool." Right. Because that's what people in committed relationships do. Brag about fictional affairs to impress their friends. I don't think you do, Stacy. And I definitely don't love the person I just saw in that video. "This is ridiculous," Karen cut in. "We have deposits paid. A $23,000 venue. Guests invited from out of state. You are going to fix this, Jensen. I won't have my daughter humiliated." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "Karen, your daughter just publicly announced her plans to use me as her personal ATM and bragged about cheating on me. There's nothing to fix here except the mistake I made proposing to her in the first place." "You don't understand," Karen hissed. "My daughter has a certain position to maintain. Her friends all know about the wedding. How do you think this makes her look? Like someone who got caught showing her true colors," I replied. "Not my problem." Stacy started sobbing harder. "My dress cost $6,800. The venue is perfect. My friends all saw it. You've ruined everything. You did that yourself. If you want someone to blame, find a mirror." Karen stepped closer, jabbing her finger at me. "If you think Robert will let you walk away from this commitment, you're wrong. He's on his way here now." "Great. Can't wait to hear what he thinks about his daughter cheating on me and calling me a dumbass in front of the whole internet." I told them to leave. Karen kept threatening. It didn't concern me. I'd done nothing wrong. And I had video evidence of Stacy's comments and admission of cheating. Eventually, they left, but not before Karen promised this wasn't over. My phone kept lighting up with texts from her friends. Some angry, some explaining what she really meant. I captured screenshots of everything for documentation. When dealing with people like this, evidence is your best defense. I turned my phone back on just to text my best friend Ryan. "Wedding's off. Need a place to crash?" Within 10 minutes he was at my door with a duffel bag for me and his spare key. "I don't want to be here when she comes back," I told him. "And she will come back." "Damn right she will," Ryan said. "What the hell happened?" I showed him the screen recording I'd made of the live stream. "Jesus Christ, dude. What a snake." He handed me a drink. "Pack your shit. You're staying with me until we figure this out." I grabbed my important documents and essential stuff. I made 2 calls that night from Ryan's place. One to my lawyer, Sarah, and one to a locksmith to change all the locks first thing in the morning. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. "Send me the recording," Sarah said, after I explained the situation. "I know exactly what we're dealing with here. She wasn't just my business attorney, but had handled her fair share of nasty breakups. She'd helped a buddy of mine when his ex tried to claim part ownership of his construction business, despite never contributing a dime. Just as we were about to leave, Robert showed up alone. His expression was grim, his military bearing evident even in civilian clothes. "Jensen," he said, his voice level. "Got a minute?" I nodded, gesturing for Ryan to wait in the car. Robert and I stepped onto the porch. "I saw the video," he said bluntly. Karen showed it to me thinking it would make me come down on Stacy's side. He shook his head. She was wrong. I didn't know what to say to that. "I've always respected you, Jensen. You remind me of myself at your age. Building something real, working with your hands, honest to a fault. I raised Stacy to be better than this." His jaw tightened. "Whatever happens next, I want you to know I don't blame you." He put his hand on my shoulder. "Do what you need to do. I've got my own mess to sort out." As he turned to leave, he paused. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Truly. The next morning, I met with Sarah at her office downtown. She'd already reviewed the video and drafted initial paperwork before I arrived. Smart lawyer. Sarah explained we needed to focus on two priorities: protecting me and my business from harassment, and untangling any financial entanglements before they became problematic. She laid out several documents across her desk as she spoke. I needed to document everything. Every call, text, and encounter. Texas being a one-party consent state meant I could legally record any interactions if Stacy showed up. We'd file for a temporary restraining order based on harassment, with the video providing solid grounds. Halfway through my conversation with Sarah, Diego called from the shop. He told me Stacy and her mother were making a scene at my shop. They were yelling at customers and demanding I come out to fix this mess. He'd asked them to leave twice, but Karen was now threatening to call the Better Business Bureau. I told Diego I was on my way, keeping him on speaker so Sarah could hear the situation developing in real time. I asked if she wanted to witness this firsthand. Absolutely, she nodded. This will strengthen our case. When we arrived at my shop, Stacy and Karen were still there. Stacy crying, Karen demanding I come out and take responsibility for destroying her daughter's life. My shop manager, Diego, who's been with me since I opened the place, was standing between them and the workshop area, preventing them from entering the restricted zone with active equipment. Ma'am, I've already told you that Mr. Thompson is not available. This is a place of business. If you don't leave, I'll have to call the police. Don't you dare threaten me, Karen was careening. Do you have any idea who my husband is? Someone who's about to be very embarrassed when the police arrive? Diego replied calmly. I spotted two customers watching uncomfortably from the waiting area, while another had pulled out his phone and was recording the scene. Great. Just what I needed. A viral video of a domestic dispute. Sarah stepped forward. Mrs. Parker, I'm Sarah Michaels, Mr. Thompson's attorney. You are currently trespassing on private property and harassing the employees and customers of this establishment. Karen turned, eyes narrowing. He already has a lawyer? Well, that proves he was planning to abandon my daughter all along. No, ma'am, Sarah replied evenly. It proves he's responding appropriately to harassment. I strongly suggest you both leave immediately. Any further communication should go through my office. She handed Karen her business card. You can't be serious, Stacy said, looking at me pleadingly. Jensen, tell her we don't need lawyers. We can work this out. The time for working things out was before you publicly humiliated me and admitted to cheating, I said quietly. Please leave my shop now. You heard him, Diego added. And just so we're clear, I've already called the police. They should be here any minute. That got their attention. Karen grabbed Stacy's arm. Come on, we're not done with this, but we're not doing it here. Diego, who'd been with me since I opened the place, just shook his head afterward. Boss, I've seen guys drop their bikes at 80 miles per hour and walk away with less damage than what you just dodged. That incident sealed it for me. I wasn't going to wait for this to escalate. I'd already sent Sarah the complete recording of the live stream plus videos of Stacy and Karen's shop meltdown, courtesy of my security cameras. This is textbook harassment, Sarah said during our meeting that afternoon. Given what I'm seeing, we need to move straight to legal protection. Let's file for a restraining order immediately. I nodded. Do it. I know how these things go. She's not going to back off peacefully. Sarah was already typing notes. Smart move. I'll file the paperwork today. Back at the shop, I gathered my 5 employees for a quick meeting. Some of you saw what happened earlier. Stacy and I are no longer together. She might cause problems. If they show up here, do not engage. Call me and call the police. Diego nodded. Already briefed the guys while you were gone. We've got your back. I spent the rest of the afternoon doing damage control with clients who had witnessed the scene, giving them discounts on labor, offering priority scheduling, anything to counter the negative impression. Most were understanding. A few even shared their own horror stories about bad breakups. Ryan went with me back to my house to grab more of my stuff while the restraining order was being processed. Stacy had let herself in with the spare key I forgot she had and was waiting there. Ryan stood guard while I packed clothes, important documents, and my vintage Harley parts collection that she'd already told her friends she was planning to trash. You realize this is breaking and entering, right? I said calmly, grabbing my laptop. I have security cameras. This is all being recorded. It's not breaking in when I have a key, she shouted. You can't just end things over a stupid video. Watch me, I said, zipping up my duffel bag. The locksmith arrived as we were leaving. I made sure he changed every single lock while I watched. I also had him install a smart doorbell camera, the kind that records motion and sends alerts to my phone. Cost me $842, but worth every penny for the peace of mind. Back at Ryan's, I went into full financial protection mode. I canceled every shared account, removed her as an authorized user from my credit cards, changed all my passwords, and set up fraud alerts on my accounts. I knew enough about breakups to know that money is often the first target. I also started calling vendors to cancel wedding arrangements. Most had non-refundable deposits, but a few were willing to work with me given the circumstances. The venue manager was understanding, especially after I showed him the video. They ended up refunding 60% of the deposit as a special circumstance. The temporary restraining order was granted in record time, just 48 hours after filing. Sarah had highlighted the public humiliation, the unauthorized entry to my home, the scene at my business, and the constant calls from Stacy as evidence of harassment. The judge agreed that her behavior warranted immediate protection. When Stacy was served with the papers, she exploded, calling me from a new number. "A restraining order? Are you kidding me? I'm your fiancé." "Ex-fiancé," I corrected her. "And you're violating the restraining order by calling me." I hung up and forwarded the call log and voicemail to Sarah. Every interaction was evidence for the permanent order hearing scheduled the following week. I was surprised when Robert called me that evening. "Jensen, I hear my daughter was served with legal papers today." "That's right," I said, bracing for whatever came next. "Good," he said flatly. "Maybe it'll finally sink in that actions have consequences." "You're not mad?" I asked. "Son, I'm furious, but not at you. I've spent 25 years trying to build character in that girl, and her mother's spent the same amount of time undermining it. Karen is at the house right now telling Stacy how to fight this injustice. I'm calling you from my truck in the driveway because I can't stand to be in there right now. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this," I said. "Don't be. This has been a long time coming. Look, I wanted to warn you. Karen was telling Stacy they needed to fight fire with fire. Whatever that means, it won't be good. Thanks for the heads up," I replied. "I've got security cameras installed at the house and shop, and Sarah's documenting everything. Smart man, keep your guard up." Once Stacy realized I wasn't playing around with the legal system, the harassment went digital. My Spotify account got hijacked. My Amazon password got changed. Then I got a notification for a bunch of charges on a credit card, where I was the primary holder, and she was an authorized user. I'd forgotten about that card. She'd gone on a $2,700 shopping spree at Nordstrom and Sephora. I called the credit card company, reported unauthorized use, and disputed the charges. They froze the account immediately and opened a fraud investigation. Stacy also borrowed my vintage Triumph parts from our shared storage unit, rare finds I'd spent years collecting, worth about $2,200. I filed a police report for theft immediately and added it to our growing case file. The storage unit was a rookie mistake on my part. We'd rented it together 6 months earlier when I was clearing space in my garage for her home gym that she used exactly twice. I should have moved my stuff out immediately after the breakup, but it slipped my mind with everything else happening. Things took an even uglier turn when my sister Heather called me, confused. "Jensen, why is Stacy telling everyone you cheated on her? Her friend Zoe just texted me asking if I knew about your affair with someone at the shop." I took a deep breath. "It's not true. She's the one who cheated, and now she's trying to flip the script." "Yeah, I figured," Heather said. "Just wanted to warn you that she's spreading this around." Mom got a weird call from Karen too, saying you broke Stacy's heart after she caught you with someone else. Great. They were going after my family now. That same day, Diego pulled me aside at work. "Boss, we lost the Rodriguez account and the Freeman build. Both canceled this morning." "That's weird. Did they say why?" Diego looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Freeman said she'd heard some disturbing things about how you treat women and didn't feel comfortable supporting the business." The dots connected instantly. Diego saw it too. "She's trying to hit your reputation." The Rodriguez and Freeman projects were worth about $28,000 combined. Not enough to sink the business, but definitely a hit to our quarterly projections. And more importantly, both were well-connected clients who could influence others in our customer base. I called Sarah immediately. "They're spreading lies about me, and now it's costing me business. 2 female customers just pulled major projects." "That's defamation," Sarah said firmly. "We need to add this to the case and file separately for defamation." "Do you have any evidence connecting Stacy or her friends to these claims?" "Working on it," I said. "Remember my cousin's wife Amy, who'd been at the livestream? I contacted her. The guilt was eating at her, and she was ready to help. They have a group chat where they're coordinating everything," she admitted. "I can send you screenshots." Amy had been friends with Stacy since college, but was married to my cousin Jake. She'd been caught in the middle and clearly felt bad about what was happening. The screenshots were damning. Taylor had created a burner email account and was sending messages to my clients claiming I had gambling debts, cheated on Stacy, and was unstable and dangerous. In one message, she specifically mentioned targeting female customers to hit him where it hurts, his precious business. Stacy was actively encouraging this, writing, "He thinks he can just walk away and be fine? Let's see how he feels when his reputation is in the trash." There were detailed instructions on which clients to target first: women-owned businesses and female customers who had recently brought in expensive bikes for service. They had clearly gone through my shop's social media to identify customers. I forwarded everything to Sarah. The temporary restraining order already prohibits this kind of behavior, so they're accumulating violations. This would make the permanent order a slam dunk and give us grounds to go after damages for my business losses. Then my phone rang. It was Robert. "Jensen, I've been hearing some concerning things." I filled him in on the defamation situation. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Send me everything you have," he finally said. "This ends now." The next few days were a blur of damage control. I personally called every female client in our database, explaining that there were false rumors being spread by my ex-fiancée. Most were understanding, a few were skeptical, but at least I'd gotten ahead of the story. Diego came up with the idea of hosting a customer appreciation day at the shop. We offered free basic maintenance checks, discounted oil changes, and catered food from a local BBQ joint. It cost about $1,500, but brought in most of our regular customers and helped counter the negative whispers. Several people told me they'd received strange emails, but hadn't believed them. 2 days before the hearing, I received a formal letter from Stacy's lawyer, John, offering to settle the matter amicably if I would drop my restraining order request and defamation claims. In exchange, Stacy would agree not to pursue her own claims of emotional distress and invasion of privacy. I forwarded it to Sarah, who called me laughing. Invasion of privacy? For recording a public live stream? And emotional distress for what exactly? Being caught saying awful things about you? This is desperate posturing. They know they have no case. The hearing for the permanent restraining order and the preliminary defamation case was scheduled just 1 week later. Sarah had expedited everything, arguing that the ongoing business damage warranted immediate action. Stacy showed up looking like she was auditioning for the role of martyred saint, all teary-eyed in a conservative outfit I'd never seen her wear before. Gone were the designer jeans and crop tops, replaced by a modest navy dress that probably came straight from Karen's closet. Karen was there scowling at me from the moment I walked in, as if I was the villain in this story. Taylor was there too, smirking from the back until the judge told her to sit down and be quiet or be removed. What I didn't expect was Robert sitting on my side of the courtroom, stone-faced and ramrod straight in his perfectly pressed suit. He gave me a slight nod when I walked in. Their lawyer, John, tried to paint Stacy as the heartbroken, wronged woman who was just processing her grief in messy ways. "Your Honor, Mr. Thompson unilaterally ended a 3-year relationship over one unfortunate conversation. Ms. Parker's actions, while perhaps inappropriate, were merely emotional responses to being abandoned without warning." Sarah just played the live stream. Then she presented the security footage from my shop, the documentation of the unauthorized credit card charges, and Amy's sworn testimony about the defamation campaign. The screenshots from the group chat were particularly damning. When the judge saw Taylor's message about making sure all his female customers know what a creep he is, his expression hardened. "Your Honor," Sarah continued, "my client took immediate legal action rather than retaliating. He sought proper protection while Ms. Parker and her associates launched a coordinated attack on his reputation. She submitted affidavits from clients who'd canceled projects after receiving anonymous emails with false claims, plus documentation of disputed credit card charges and the theft report for my motorcycle parts." Karen leaned forward, whispering furiously in John's ear. He looked uncomfortable, but stood up. "Your Honor, we'd like to introduce a character witness for Ms. Parker. Her father is present and would like to speak on her behalf." The judge nodded. "Mr. Parker, please step forward." Robert stood, but instead of approaching their table, he walked to the center of the courtroom. "Your Honor, I came here today to speak the truth, not to defend the indefensible. My daughter and her mother believed I was here to support them, but I cannot in good conscience do that." Karen gasped. Stacy's eyes went wide. "I've known Jensen for 3 years. He's honest, hard-working, and has always respected my daughter. The behavior you've seen in that video isn't how I raised her." He turned to look directly at Stacy. "I'm deeply disappointed in who you've chosen to become." Karen jumped up. "Robert, what are you doing?" The judge banged his gavel. "Ma'am, sit down or I'll have you removed." Robert continued calmly. "Your Honor, I fully support Jensen's request for protection and damages. Actions have consequences, and it's high time my daughter learned that lesson. The judge wasn't having any of Stacy's victim acts after that. Ms. Parker, the court takes a very dim view of using defamation as a weapon in a personal dispute. The evidence here is quite clear. He granted the permanent restraining order. Stacy has to stay 100 yards away from me, my home, and my business. No contact, direct or indirect. That includes no calls, no texts, no social media messages, and critically, no getting her friends to do her dirty work. For the defamation case, the judge issued a preliminary injunction ordering Stacy, Taylor, and the other identified friends to immediately cease making any statements about me or my business to anyone. He also ordered them to send retraction emails to every client they had contacted. "Counselor," the judge replied coldly, "your client has shown a pattern of harassment, made unauthorized charges, trespassed, disturbed his business, and coordinated defamation. If anything, Mr. Thompson showed restraint by not pursuing criminal charges." The order stands. The look on Stacy's face? Pure shock. Karen was sputtering about appealing and blaming everyone but her daughter. Taylor looked like she'd swallowed a wasp. When we exited the courtroom, Sarah turned to me with a satisfied nod. "The defamation suit will continue. We'll be seeking damages for the lost business and punitive damages for the malicious nature of their actions. I'd expect they'll be eager to settle." Robert approached me in the hallway. I shook his hand and thanked him. As we walked out of the courthouse, I mentally calculated my losses so far. The $18,000 non-refundable wedding deposits, the $9,000 ring, which I still had, but would likely sell at a loss, $2,700 in fraudulent credit card charges that were still being disputed, $2,200 in stolen parts, and around $28,000 in lost business from the canceled projects, roughly $60,000 total. That didn't include the new locks and security cameras, the legal fees so far, and the incalculable damage to my personal and professional reputation. All in all, this relationship had cost me nearly $70,000. But I thought how this could have been so much worse if I married her. Thank God dodged a nuke, not a bullet. Sarah was right. 3 days later, John called her offering to settle the defamation case for $15,000 in business damages, plus my legal fees. In return, they wanted me to sign an NDA about the live stream. "Tell them I'll take the money, but no NDA," I told Sarah. "That video is my insurance policy." John came back with a counter. $20,000 plus fees, with a limited NDA that only prevented me from posting the video online. I accepted. The final settlement document was signed a week later. It's been 6 months now, and the aftermath? Pure karma all around. The restraining order and defamation judgment are now public records. The dream wedding savings are gone, eaten up by lawyers, settlements, and lost deposits. Robert filed for divorce from Karen 2 days after the court hearing. 27 years of marriage over in a heartbeat. Word is he was done with her enabling Stacy's worst behaviors and made the final decision after seeing the coordinated defamation campaign Karen helped orchestrate. He also cut Stacy off financially. She had to move in with Karen, who's struggling with the divorce proceedings herself. Robert's security firm was worth a lot of money, and Karen signed a prenup back in the day that severely limited what she could claim. I heard through the Austin grapevine that Robert sold their Westlake Hills house and bought a ranch outside of Fredericksburg. Taylor lost her marketing job after her boss, who happens to be an avid motorcyclist and occasional customer at my shop, saw evidence of her campaign against me, including using company time to send those defamatory emails. Turns out interfering with someone's business is frowned upon by employers who value professional integrity. I moved into a new place across town. It has a better garage setup, more space for my tools and projects, with proper ventilation for painting and mechanical work. Business has been booming since everything went down. Hired 2 mechanics and expanded our fabrication department. We're booked solid for 8 months, now turning away basic service to focus on higher margin custom builds. Diego, who had my back throughout, is now my business partner with a 15% stake. His investment has accelerated our expansion plans. 2 months ago, Robert stopped by the shop. He handed me a bottle of bourbon and a set of rare Harley cylinder heads I'd been hunting for. "Thought you could use these for that 48 panhead you mentioned," he said, "and figured we could share a drink. No reason 2 good men can't stay friends." I accepted both. We still meet up every other week for drinks and bike talk. Some connections are worth keeping.